Welcome back, guys. We have a shootout. Actually, I'm kind of excited to show you this. I have the 800. It's going to be the 800 mil shootouts, 800, 1200 millimeter shootouts. So we have the Nikon P1000. You guys know this beast. It can do everything up to 3000. We have the Olympus 150 to 600. We have the Panasonic 100 to 300. I'll kind of tell you why. You can kind of get 1200 millimeters out of this. Then you have the 800 or the 400 mil Olympus. We have the 800 mil Canon F11. And then we have the Sigma Prime 800 mil F5.6. So what we're going to show in this video is the difference in background blur between like just a point and shoot, micro four thirds, APS-C, and full frame. I have a Canon R5. What we're going to do, we have 4 scenarios, because this is one of the things I've always wondered about, like the background blur, the kind of that professional looking, how the subject pops and then everything else just kind of melts away. This is a very expensive lens. I think brand new back in the day it was like $8,000. This is very cheap. This is the F11 new RF. That's like $800. Then of course we have the Olympus is like $2,000, $2,600. And then, you know, the $1,000 lenses and less. But I want to know what the background blur looks like how much separation, how much pop can we get from a full frame all the way down to a point and shoot at 800 millimeters and 1200. So how this is going to work for, you know, the bigger lenses, whatever we can stretch out to 1200 millimeters, we'll compare that APS-C, because full frame, we can't get that just with the native lens. But this with APS-C, this 800 becomes a 1200 mil. This becomes a 1200 mil on APS-C. And then this is an 800 mil. So we'll compare that, but we can do some digital teleconverting, some cropping, that kind of stuff, because there's a digital teleconverter into the Olympus that actually this becomes a 600 because it's 300. And then we use a digital teleconverter, it gets out to 1200. And this is f5.6. Great lens. I'm probably going to do another review on this because this is my favorite kind of wildlife lens, something portable. And then of course the P1000 gets you 800, 1200, 3000 millimeters. So I have 4 scenarios, which I was getting to. That is kind of the things that I look for when I'm doing wildlife photography. First, something close, like a bird perch, and then the background's far away. And then the second scenario, we're going to have something mid-size, you know, not super far away, kind of like mid-distance away. And then the background mid-distance away to see what kind of separation we can get, see the bokeh or the background blur. The third one is something mid-ground, something kind of close, but not really. And the background's close. So what kind of separation, what kind of background blur we get there. And the last one, the fourth case, is a tree or something far away and the background's far away. So we get kind of a versatile look at what we can get in a realistic situation, and we'll kind of go through this. So for the first one, I'll let you guys see, it's the up close bird perch. It's a post. I've actually posted some other videos of me doing out of my car. You put some bird seed on a perch and then you kind of get that. I'll let you look at these. That we're going to do 800 and 1200 millimeter equivalents, and I think you'll be surprised at the results of this. Looking through those 4, 5 kind of videos or the pictures there's hardly any difference. I was really surprised. The Nikon P1000, these point and shoots can get almost as good as bokeh background blur as the bigger expensive lenses. So what this kind of tells us in this instance is that if you're going to do something really up close and you got a background that's really far away, don't even worry about it. You don't even have to worry about it. In fact, there's some advantages to using something with a little bit more depth of field, because something with an f5.6, you can get the tail feathers can get blurry. Like you can get part of the bird in focus and part of the bird. It's so narrow. Your depth of field is so narrow that you can't really get everything in focus, where like the point and shoots or the micro four thirds APS-C is a little bit better. So the second one that I'm kind of interested, I'll show you, is the subject's kind of medium distance, maybe a bird photo, medium distance, but the background's close, meaning it's closer. It's like halfway between them, almost the same distance, but it's close up. I'll let you look at this. I'll put the notes of the cameras that shot it and we'll talk about it. Okay, when we look at the results here, the P1000, the background blur, it's totally opposite than the first example. It doesn't look very good. At 800 mil, it doesn't look very good. And then we go to micro four thirds, the f6.3s. We kind of go to the 800 mil because we're going to use this as the 800 mil versus this 800 mil. And we notice that, yeah, there's definitely a difference. Full frame, micro four thirds, what it looks like. It's significantly better. The Olympus micro four thirds significantly better than the point and shoot, but you can tell that f5.6 800 is really just kind of annihilating the background. Very nice, and it puts it there. So when we go to the 1200 millimeters, that's what we're going to do now. Let's look at the same shot, but with 1200 millimeters. And what you'll notice is this is where things really start to blow up. Like, the f11 versus the f5.6 in the last one, you could tell the difference. You could see the background stuff, but it's quite the magnification. Now, if we put it on APS-C sensor, this is 18 megapixels. If we put that on an APS-C sensor, you'll notice a difference. So I'll roll that and let you see some examples in addition to the Nikon P1000. All right, so what do we notice about the Nikon P1000? The background looks way better. This is the thing, the magnification going from 800 mil on a point and shoot to 1200 really starts to kind of blow out the background, or at least helps it. And then we look at 1200 mil with the Olympus 150 to 600. Yeah, you can tell there's a big difference as well. Not sure we're going to show this one, but this does a little bit better when we do the actual, 2 times digitals and we pull in. Looking at this at 1200 mil, this becomes better as well. And then of course the f5.6 on an APS-C sensor, that crop, it blows it out. So what happens, same scenario, what happens is using that 1200 millimeters, whether it's optical or kind of the view that you get, it kind of enhances, it kind of blows up the background. So it's not so, you can't quite see the background as much, right? With the P1000, we're actually using a 1200 millimeter zoom. So it just blows the background up and brings it forward, which kind of blurs things out a little bit better. So if you're going to shoot, I guess, close up and have something closer to you, it's probably an advantage to have like a bigger zoom, something to kind of help with that. Even with the Nikon P1000, you can see that. So that's kind of interesting. It's cool right there. Let's get to the next one, which is something mid-distance away or further away. I should say it's further away, and then the subject is kind of close, kind of mid distance, but close, not right on top of it. Let's look at this tree and see the background blur. All right, so what do we notice? First off, yeah, you can totally tell at 800 mil using these lenses the difference. The f5.6 really stands out. You know, the 800 mil full frame, you can look at that. Now, you know, going from the P1000, obviously that has the most depth. I was kind of surprised at the micro four thirds. Yeah, no, you can tell, but it wasn't as big a drop off between the P1000 and the micro four thirds. I thought it was going to be a bigger separation. Not so much. But when we get to the version, the 1200 millimeters, which we'll show you here. But when we look at the 1200 millimeters, that's when things get a little bit more interesting. The Nikon P1000 kind of looks fairly decent and surprising. You know, 1200 millimeters, it brings that background up close so you can't quite see what the things are. I mean, you can kind of notate it. The micro four thirds becomes better. The APS-C, the 1200 millimeter, that looks good. And of course, I guess the R5 with the APS-C mount looks at f5.6 just looks beautiful. Like it looks creamy, it looks there. And we have one last one. Now this picture is a tree far away and the background's far away. And kind of note, really take a look. We'll run through the photos at 800 and 1200 millimeters and kind of give you a rough indication of what this takes. All right, so first off, we look at 800 millimeters, the point and shoot. It absolutely, you can see like everything. You can read the sign easily. Everything's there. And then you go to the micro four thirds. It's better, you know, with the 800. And then the F11's kind of better, you know. I mean, it's 800 mil in full frame. And then we go to f5.6, and you can really notice it. That stuff that's further away. The bigger lens, the full frame just seems to make it a lot more creamier, that professional background blur, and kind of it doesn't totally blow out the background, but it does better, substantially better than the point and shoots and the smaller sensors. And then when we go to the 1200 millimeters, meaning we're going APS-C with this, APS-C with this, we have, you know, 1200 millimeters with the Olympus 150-600, and of course the Nikon 1000. So what do we see with that? The Nikon P1000 cleans up substantially. This is that thing, going an extra 400 millimeters with the zoom, kind of clears up that background, or I should say just makes it a little bit softer. And then of course, when you go here, it really notices, you kind of notice it with a 1200 millimeter versus the 800 millimeter. And even you can kind of use this. Again, this can be 1200 millimeters, a 100, 300. But yeah, it gets better, obviously, than just a 600 substantially when you start using the digital. And then the F11, 1280, it's 1200 millimeters. And then when you really dig in, you kind of see the difference with the F5.6. So, things to take away. expensive lenses versus something that's fairly affordable. Point and shoots in the 800 mil, because this is supposed to be the same. You know, this is 800 mil, 6.3 micro four thirds, 800 mil, 5.6 full frame. About $1,000. You know, the new Canon F5.6 800s are like $17,000. Yeah, it's thing. Outside of the hassle, because this is, you know, these are like 10, 15 pounds. This is like 2 pounds. Getting it in and out of your car and everything. Is it worth it to own a big professional lens? Do you think? I'll let that decision be up to you guys, because I mean, it's a personal preference. Me, I learned a lot because I was always curious. You know, I shoot these not together, and I'm always kind of wondering, like, oh, I wonder what that would look like. I wonder if I would. What tells me initially on with the something that's semi-close, it doesn't matter at all. It doesn't matter at all. Something that's semi-close, you could use anything as long as the background's far away. Something mid-range, like, you know, you got that subject mid-range, and then you got something behind it. Yeah, it does matter, but does it matter that much, especially if you're going to zoom in on a bird? I don't think so. I don't think it's going to matter that much. Where it really matters, the big lenses, the 600 f4s, is, let's say if you're taking pictures of bigger animals, bison, bear, further out, and you want to melt away that background, or you want to give it a little softer appearance, not like a, how should I say, a cell phone. You know, when you see cell phone, everything's sharp from beginning to end. If you just kind of want to hit the animal side profile and then have the mountains and this a nice blurring effect, it does better than the micro four thirds stuff. And I've even seen, you know, 600 f4, 300 f4, the Olympus, and you can tell the same difference. It's just, you know, the physics of the micro four thirds, it's half the size of the full frame, so you get kind of half the background blur. But overall, up close, it doesn't matter. Mid-range, you know, if that background's really close, it does matter, but how much? If you zoom in, you can kind of josh around, maybe change a couple angles here and there, make it kind of similar. And then if you want something, I don't know, I mean, you can kind of see what you can live with. You know, is this worth a big lens, worth buying into and getting that nice background blur of something far away and pleasing? That's kind of the professional stuff. It's kind of, in my mind, is kind of going away. Maybe if you're just the perfection dude, you want the highest level possible. If you want that highest level possible of image quality and the stuff that just melts away, and you don't mind the hassle and expense, get yourself a big 600 f4, 800, 5.6. But for most of us, my kind of, my takeaway is I'm not missing all that much, especially shooting smaller animals closer to me with the background gone. You don't miss really anything. That's kind of if you do it correctly. If you got something somewhat close and the background's close, it helps. It does help a little bit. But so I want to know what your thoughts. Were you surprised at any of the photo comparisons? Did something jump out at you? Did it reaffirm something you already know? Because I always felt this, but I never test it side by side, like camera in, switch lens, camera in, do that kind of stuff. So thanks a lot, guys. Hit that like, subscribe, and I'll see you later.